Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the local Bizcast. Good morning. How you guys doing? I am very, very excited to have my guest today because not only is she representing an unbelievable cause today, but she is one of my best friends on earth. Ladies and gentlemen, Jen Heit.
Thank you.
Say hello.
Pete.
Little claps, everything like that.
Thank you.
And as much as I want to talk to you personally, and we have been for the last half an hour, whether you guys have been watching it or not, what is more important, and I think we're going to pack 30 minutes in, is what you're doing right now, because you are with the CASA group, which is court-appointed special advocates, and it's specifically for Bergen County. And I feel like I need to stop talking so that you can start talking, because there is so much information that and by the way, I'm best friends with her. And even I had absolutely no idea until about 20 minutes ago, all the stuff that CASA does. And I've been to fundraisers and I've been to events and stuff like that. So without further ado, which is weird because you're looking at her and listening to her already. But ladies and gentlemen, Jen Heit from CASA, please tell us, right off the bat, what is CASA? You're welcome.
So Bergen County CASA, CASA stands for, like you said, court-appointed special advocates. So I'm going to take a step back and talk about 1972.
Yeah, because who doesn't talk about 1972?
Well,
yeah, got it.
Before I was born.
Yeah.
Thank God. So there was a family court judge that was seeing a lot of foster care cases and saw a need for more information on these foster children, that there's a lot of players in that child's life, but there was not ample information to make decisions on behalf of that child. So now, however many years later,
you're not going to do the math right now?
I know, right?
You got to do it right now.
52 years later.
There you go.
Pretty much every county in the country, give or take, has a CASA. And Bergen County CASA is what I'm representing. We train volunteer advocates that are paired with either a foster child or a set of siblings. And that advocate is on the case until the child is in a permanent home. Our job is to really become an expert on that child. We get to know the child. We get to know their lives. We get to know everybody who is impacting them, from their foster care placement to their biological families, to their schools, the teachers, therapists, their law guardian, their division caseworker. We really get in and understand what's happening in that child's life. There's a court hearing approximately every 3 months. We attend the court hearings, we write a court report, and we let the court know how things are happening in that child's life. Educational advocacy is one of the big things that we report on, and we play a big part in advocating for all their educational needs, depending on, if they're in daycare or if they're heading off to college. We need to understand what's happening educationally, making sure they're getting the required support, what's happening for them healthcare wise. How are they doing with their family? How are things in the home that they're staying at? Are they getting the support that they need? And really getting to know the child and creating a relationship with the child. So we work with kids right from the hospital. They may be removed from their family because of drug or alcohol abuse. So the children have to be removed from them right from the hospital. So that happens. It's a tough situation. And then we work all the way up to teens who are aging out of foster care, between 18 and 21, helping them live independently on their own and giving them the skills to do so, and making sure they're set up for success to go out and live on their own.
Just that, huh?
Just that.
We know just absolutely everything. Yeah. You're like the defender of these kids when they probably didn't have any defense before CASA came about. I mean, they're just throwing them about in the system, and and the system is big.
The system is it's challenging. There's a lot of great supports in the system, but it's as a lot of people know, it's just it's very tough. And what our advocates do, and I'm an advocate myself, I'm a trained advocate. That's how I got started in this. I started about 4 years ago. I've had 2 cases of my own. What we really do, and what we say, is we give these children hope. They have somebody to lean on and somebody to reach out to if they don't have that. And many times they don't. I know cases where We have a case where it's the child was about 8 years old when they got an advocate, and the child is now 16 or 17. He's or no, it's 17 or 18 because he's a senior
In
in
high school.
high school. He has a wonderful advocate who's really pushing for him to graduate. And when he showed up, I think at a middle school graduation, he was the CASA was the only person who showed up at the graduation. And the child said to him, I knew you were going to be here
there.
for me." So it's really serving in that capacity and being the hope for a child and giving them a lifeline to a better life.
It's tough to not get emotional just even listening to you talk about that.
Yeah.
It's pretty
And
insane. It's
yeah.
incredible because it's like the advocates, you guys are these very young children's security blanket.
Mhm.
The older children, you're their guarantee. You're
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And they don't have
absolutely.
anybody. Sometimes they don't have anybody else who is there.
That's right.
And that's just crazy.
That's right. Absolutely.
And you were talking about this is Bergen County. Like this is a relatively affluent county.
Yeah,
in
one
the
of our
entire country.
judges has said, people around here don't necessarily think that there are a lot of foster care cases, but you'd be surprised. We have the same numbers as other counties in New Jersey. Right now, we're serving 102 children right now. We just got 4 cases this week. So unfortunately, numbers are on the rise, is what we're seeing.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And there was no, I'm listening. I'm just thinking about this judge in 1972. Before this, I mean, how bad could it have possibly have been? And I mean, as you said, it's not a great situation. So but you're making
We're
the
trying
best
to
out of
make
it.
it better, trying to make it better, trying to make it better, mostly for the kids, but also to be a support to what's happening in their lives, because sometimes it's the biological families that need support. They're trying desperately to get back with their children. The court has set up a lot of services that they need to get through. Being a parent is really challenging between work, school, commitments, and if you're struggling financially, or if you're struggling with your mental health or physical health, it's very, very hard. And you can imagine that if you're dealing with all 3 of those things, it's easy for you to lose sight of being a good parent.
Yep.
And there are parents out there that really do want to get back into their child's life. So we have some really successful stories where we've seen families be reunited, because at the end of the day, the state wants for reunification more than anything.
I think anybody wants that. Everybody wants that.
We had somebody come speak to one of our events last year. She was a struggling mom, and her daughter was removed from her care, and her CASA really helped step in and make sure that she was able to do all of the services that she needed to do. And this woman is now an attorney. She is handling family type cases,
Right.
and she's a wonderful success story.
That is the success story over there.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's incredible. I can't even believe it. But you're here because there's needs, and CASA has needs, and they're not small needs; they're large needs. But there's a few. So why don't we go into the first one? Is that, I mean, I'm assuming with the increase in caseload, there's going to be an increase in need for people like you, different advocates.
Absolutely.
And that's, I'm just sort of one of the things that you're trying to grow.
Right. Absolutely. We're always looking for new advocates. We serve a lot of minority advocates, so we're looking for more minority, especially Latinx and male advocates to really represent the children that we're serving. We really want to diversify our advocate pool. And to become an advocate, I should probably talk about that, right?
I was just going to ask. I'm like, can
So-
anybody just become an advocate? I'm like, my son can be an advocate, can he?
Well, you need, technically, I believe you need to be about 18 years old, or
All right,
21, 21, I think. But, we're really looking for advocates that are willing to dedicate the time. You have to be willing to put in the work. It's not an easy job. You really need to, like I said, stay with the child until they're in a permanent home. That child is experiencing so much change. Oftentimes, foster placements change. There are the case that I mentioned before. I think that child's been in more than 12 homes in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And there's been some that are more than that. It's the numbers are terrible. So the CASA has to be
the one stable
to stay there.
Yeah.
So it's very critical that they're willing to put in the time.
I'm feel like in my head I'm thinking of like a foster home like Annie and stuff like that, but that's not it. I mean, do they have those large group homes like foster homes anymore, or
Typically,
is
we
it
try
more
and
independent families?
it's the first line is for the courts and the Division for Child Protection and Permanency. They're the caseworkers that represent the state. So they are going to look for what they call kinship placements. So they're going to look for grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, relatives
Relative,
that
yeah.
are willing to. So that way you minimize the change in that child's life. Oftentimes that doesn't happen. There are resource homes, we call them resource homes, where they will be placed. There was a really wonderful story that came out of last week. We had National Adoption Day. There was a 13-year-old boy who was adopted by his resource foster mother.
Oh,
And
I see that stuff on TikTok all the time, and it pulls the heartstrings. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So he was in that foster home for whatever amount of time.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't recall the actual.
That's okay.
I think it was definitely a few
Years.
years.
Yeah.
It takes time, but the CASA really helped again in that scenario, really solidify that relationship between the resource parent and the child. So it's a really great success story.
That makes me very, very happy. I just love those stories. And you just look at the children on the TikToks and they just, I mean, you would think the parents would be emotional, but the kids, they get it.
Yeah.
As young, some of them
Oh,
are
yeah.
young, some of them are even older, and they get
Well,
what
the
the
amount of
significance of
trauma
that.
that
Yeah.
they've experienced, I mean, the trauma is huge from, all the life changes, the children aren't necessarily involved in the court hearings, but oftentimes they know what's happening.
Yeah.
It's very, very traumatic. I know I saw a stat, and this doesn't even involve foster children, but how traumatic it is for a child to change schools or to change homes. And that's a child that's not experiencing trauma. That's traumatic
Trust me.
psychologically. So when you're dealing with all of these things that foster children are dealing with, it's it's really tough.
Jen knows my wife, Kelly. Kelly jumped around a lot because of her father, not in the military, but different plastics and whatever. And she was moving to new schools all the time.
Yeah.
And that was stable family, stable everything. And like, imagine being the new kid in a school, new middle school, maybe 2 new middle schools, then
Absolutely.
new high school.
I moved in the middle
God.
of 4th grade and cross country, and it still informs
You still,
who I am and how I parent. And
it's got to be so difficult. And then to add the fact that it's foster and everything like that. And so the one stable person, the one thing that anchors is the CASA advocate. Because, I mean, you couldn't even, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You're making me emotional too early on a Wednesday morning. I should have known what was coming, guys. So
we're always looking to, as you said, so the case numbers are on the rise. So we need advocates. We also need money. We're a nonprofit organization. We get a lot of money from grant funding, but we see that the grant money is not necessarily going to be where it is in the next few years, what has come in the last few years. So we have to work harder at our fundraising efforts. I appreciate you having me on this podcast because we need to get out and speak to the community.
A little bit of exposure, right?
And get the exposure and also just tap into the community. I know everybody wants to help. I know you said on your last podcast, you're only successful if you keep asking. So
that's it.
That's my job here is to keep asking.
She's listening. Oh, it's so true. I mean, you have to ask, and that's what this is. I want to make people comfortable to ask. So we're asking you for help. If you know somebody who wants to be an advocate, who's interested, I mean, I'm sure there's different avenues that you can take, but 21 years old, without any other criteria,
So, let's go back to that. So, there is a vetting process. So there's an interview and a background check, and then there's training. It's 36 hours of training. There's 2 nights a week. Usually make it, I think it's about 6 to 9 p.m. So working people can participate.
Right.
So there's ongoing training. It's very critical that you understand all the avenues of child development and the court system and life for a foster child, just to name a few topics. I know I'm not covering all of them right now, but it's really important to be trained to, again, write that court report that's going to help the judge make the most critical decisions. And oftentimes the CASAs are catching things that other other important parties that are also reporting to the court are not necessarily seeing.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this right before we came on the air, but we said the fact that, like, there's judges and there's these people involved, and there's attorneys and there's different advocates all over the place, and it seems like everybody's kind of piecemeal, and there's really one person that's kind of blanketing the entire thing, and that's like the CASA advocate who's putting this thing all together. And
well, the power of CASA is we are only representing that child. We don't have any other interests. We don't have any other cases. So while there are law guardians that represent the child's needs, that's the child's attorney, you've got the caseworker that, of course, wants the best for that child. The caseworker may have, a dozen other cases.
Right.
So all these other adults in the child's life are getting pulled in many directions. We are really there for that child. And that's the value that we bring.
It's amazing.
To the whole thing.
How big is CASA right now? I mean, it's CASA in every single county.
Yeah, it's in some counties combined. It's a case by case basis. But there's a state board, so there's a New Jersey CASA. So we work with the other New Jersey CASAs, and then there's also a national board. But we run ourselves, so we're our own. Bergen County CASA is our own 501c3. We do our own training, our own fundraising, our own everything. Yeah.
And you heard it here first.
So we're always looking for more advocates. You can certainly reach out to me. My name is Jennifer Heit.
We can get your information. Yeah.
JenniferHeit@bergencasa.org.
We're gonna make it easy. We're gonna put it on the bottom somewhere. Fabulous. I'm still learning all this stuff, but I promise you, we will get there. We'll get all the information that everybody needs out there. We'll put it on the local biz hub. I'll get it on my social, which is growing. Yeah. But there was another thing that you guys needed help with. Because it was advocates.
Yes.
But there's also raising money, fundraising.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do lots of fundraising. Today is Wednesday, December 4th. Yesterday was Tuesday, Giving Tuesday. So we have a Giving Tuesday push. You can go to bergencasa.org to make a donation if you're willing to do so. We would be very appreciative. We do lots of events. Pete and the Spine and Health Center of New Jersey have been wonderful supporters of our events. We have an event coming up next week, actually, a showing of, it's called Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, the musical at Bergen County Players in Oradell. So that's next Thursday, December 12th. We're still selling tickets to that on our website. Again, it's bergencasa.org.
All right.
We've got a casino night coming up in May.
I remember the casino night.
I know you're going to come again this year.
That one's a lot of fun.
And then in the fall, we always have a golf outing. So we would love to have your participation or your donations for our events. And again, you can reach out to me for more information. And we're always looking for good sponsors such as yourself to come and sponsor our events. So I'd love to talk to more people in Montvale and beyond about partnering with us to get your message out as well as our message out.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many little things that nobody thinks about. Yeah, it's sad. Like, some of these foster children are going from a house to a house to a house or to whatever it is and stuff like that, and things are getting left out or forgotten or lost. You've got young children with teddy bears, for example. Like this is like their crutch and such a traumatic thing. You'd mentioned one who's not doing so well in school. Tell me that story a little bit. Like it was such a simple thing, and yet there was nobody there except for the CASA advocate to realize.
Yeah, so we had a case where the child had moved placement, and the child was struggling in school in a way that they hadn't experienced, and the caseworker wasn't understanding these are different struggles than they had in their last placement. And the CASA went in and talked to the school and saw the child at the school and saw, well, why aren't you wearing your glasses? The child didn't have their glasses, so they were struggling with reading, which it's sometimes the littlest things that are the massively important things that CASAs can do. Like you said, the teddy bear. Sometimes the child was really sad. They left their teddy bear behind at the last placement. Getting a child that teddy bear back can make that child feel comfortable, and they can sleep well at night and do better in that new placement. And sometimes these absolute little things. And then there are
minutia, right?
The minutia. So we help with the minutia, and then we help out with big things. Like I know a case where The child was graduating, and he had nothing to wear to graduation. The CASA went out and got him a suit and went to graduation. We do a lot of programming around teens, so I'd love to actually take a second to talk about that.
Please take all. Yeah, you
we
go ahead.
do smaller children are important, but we do a lot of programs, because once kids reach 13 and they're a teenager, they're not realistically they're not going to come out of the system.
Right.
They are going to go through that system and they're going to age out. So we do a lot of programming to make sure that kids are set up to live independently on their own. We have a program called Fostering Futures, where we are mentoring our advocates that are working with teens to make sure that they can be a better mentor to these teens, helping them learn how to drive. How do you get your license?
Right.
How do you set yourself up with a bank account? Are you interested in, maybe they're not in school. Can we help you get your GED? Can we help you get trade,
Yeah.
training for a trade program? Or are you college bound? How do you fill out your college applications? My daughter's in college right now. Last year was a part-time job dealing with all of that. So the advocate can help these children through the things that typically parents do, because there are no there aren't necessarily parents. We mentioned group homes. A lot of times teens may live in a home with other teens, so they're not getting that one-on-one attention that a biological parent will be giving them. So that's what
it's incredible, because we know how, as you just said, how difficult it is in in your family to do this. Right. Imagine somebody who doesn't have that family, where to go. Right. And here we are, we're adults, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know what to do. I have no idea. Yeah. Things change so quickly. Okay, fine. You went through the process of applying for colleges back in the early 90s. That's not the same process anymore. So here we are as adults. We're supposed to know. I have no idea how to do this.
Right. And a lot of it is learning. That's the type, when you ask what kind of people are we looking for, you need somebody who's willing to learn and grow themselves, to say, oh gosh, I've never been through this, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it, because my CASA child needs me to know this. So that's the type of stuff that I did on my case. Was you're faced with, as a parent, you're faced with problems.
I still don't know how to learn that new math. I got to learn the new math. I haven't done it. I'm really bad at it. I mean,
but
it's
your
stuff
kids
like
come
that.
home with things that you're not expecting. The same thing will happen in a CASA case. So we do, again, we do a lot for teens. So we do that. We do we work with a lot of organizations to put together a yearly. It's called Embracing Independence, where it's a day-long event where the teens are brought in. There's some experts to present to them on things like financial stability. How do you set yourself up for financial independence? Things like,
it just seems like you're putting such young people with such responsibility, and it's incredible.
It's
because
giving them the backbone that they might not have otherwise.
And I'm giving these kids all the credit. The fact that they're able to do this, I couldn't even imagine not having the support that I had and everything like that, or even just, and they're doing it, and it's successful. And you guys are so integral on that. I mean, as I said, I have been good friends with Jen for so many years. This is the first time we're having conversations like this, and I'm touched. We've been at CASA events, and having this one-on-one, the information gets, you kind of hammer it in a little bit. It's like in the heartstrings. I want to pull on the heartstrings. We have to have all those stories, success stories, and why we need just the glasses, the teddy bear, the person that got adopted on, what was it, National Adoption Day, and all that stuff.
And we really do help, just to go back to is all the things that we do. So we do programming. We really help with things like when I mentioned, a lot of times children are coming to us straight from the hospital, and they're being placed in resource homes that we're not necessarily prepared to have a baby,
a newborn
at that moment.
Right.
So we will help with all the necessities, diaper drives, these sort of things. So we do a lot of baby goods. We do backpack and back to school drives to make sure that the children are going back to school with the things that, a lot of times these back to school drives are great. They get all the basics. But as we know, each teacher will make requests specifically for their classroom. So you have the CASA to look at their list to say, oh,
Right.
Do they have those things
Right.
so that they're not showing up at school missing something? We do winter and birthday gifts. We make sure that our children are celebrated the way most children are celebrated. They get a nice
It's
birthday
amazing.
gift. They get holiday gifts. We help with programming, like back to school, after school programs, camp programs, making sure that these kids can live an as normal life as possible.
Right.
And we know our kids, so we know that my child that I worked with last year was struggling in math. We helped get her a math tutor. And I stayed abreast of what was happening with
Right.
that tutor
You-
program. So I knew that she was making strides or where she was. And I connected back to the school to say, these are the things that she's working in the tutoring program. So these are all the things. So we do a lot of programs. We do a lot of, giving of necessary items and services. So we really are a great wraparound organization to make sure that the foster kids are getting.
How
everything
did
that
you
they need.
find CASA? And
Oh,
because
great
before
question.
you, I didn't
Is it-
know about CASA.
right,
Like,
that's
how
a
how do
really-
we not know it? Like, we know the March of Dimes and we know
Yeah.
the American Cancer Society and all these things.
Yeah.
CASA, how did you
That's a
find
great. So I'm going to rewind once again to about 20 plus years.
it? Are you going to
ago.
actually make us do math again?
Yes.
Because it's been
No,
it's
20,
like
just-
850.
Just 20.
All right, 20 years.
So I, as you know, I used to live in California. I had a friend who was a CASA, and I thought, oh, that's so nice. I could never. That's a wonderful thing. I don't know that I could ever do it, but I really support you in doing it. I loved hearing about it. In fact, I reached out to her when I started doing this, and she's still in touch with the person
her
that she
her children, yeah.
And then flashback to like 5 years ago, I lived in Japan for a year.
Sure
so
did.
I was working just down the street at KPMG for 11 plus years. And I gave that up to do the move, and I came back, and it was the thick of COVID. And I was really just I've always done stuff to give back to the community. I've been a tutor for kids in Jersey City. I've done all kinds of things just on the side that you probably don't know about. But,
No, I'm learning
I've
about it here
always
first with you
wanted
guys
to-
right now, but I'm letting you
I've
know.
always
So.
wanted to get back. So I happened to read an article in the New York Times at that moment. It was, in fact, around this time, because it was a November article that was talking about great organizations to volunteer your time with. And they mentioned CASA, and they said CASA was run at the county level. So
And you remember this from California, or
yeah.
no? This
So
is,
when I came across it, it
Yeah.
resonated with me, and I thought 20 years ago was not where it was at. Now this is the type of thing I really, really want to do, and I reached out to CASA, and here I am sitting with you today. So I've had
Mhm.
two. I got trained. I've had 2 cases so far. And then I've just been so involved with the organization that they asked me to do some development work and come out and talk to people like you and help get the message
This is
out.
horrible, right? This is tough. I made it really tough. It's not easy at
I
all.
really
I mean,
appreciate the
we have
time.
like seconds left, which is ridiculous. I keep on telling everybody 30 minutes sounds like a long time, but it is definitely not. So I just want to make sure we have everything correct. It's CASA, which stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates of Bergen County. Your 2 major needs are more advocates, and you said you were looking for male and minority specifically,
Yep.
if at all possible, but anybody can help, of course, and fundraising. So it's either going to the Bergen CASA website and either just donating straight cash, or you could donate time, or you can do these events, or you can sponsor events. Are we catching everything? Is there anything
I think
else?
That's wonderful. I really appreciate you making
Oh,
sure
come
that
on,
those
stop. This
messages
is-
were told.
This is super easy, guys. Come on, we can definitely help this. This is what this podcast was all about, is the local bizcast, helping local businesses, charities, fundraisers. This all just ties into exactly what we're trying to do here. Jen Heit from Bergen County CASA. I think she did terrific. I don't know what you guys
Thank
think,
you.
right?
Thank you.
Was it
Pete.
tough? Were you nervous?
Yeah, of course.
Why are you nervous? Why does everybody get nervous here? But
Thank you, Pete.
you're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right. So next week, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a double week. I've never done this before. We're learning. We're just kind of pivoting as we need to go along. But 2 guests next week, one on Monday, one on Wednesday. So Monday, everybody, my next guest is Jessica McCarthy. Jessica McCarthy is the founder of Elements Psychological Services right here in Montvale, New Jersey. She's joining me 10 a.m. on Monday. New bat time, new bat place. Well, same bat place, but that's 10 a.m. But we'll put it on stream. You guys can see it whenever you want. And then on our regular day, but changing our time again to 5 p.m., I'm going to start messing with you guys, or stop messing with you guys, because I know it gets difficult. But Wednesday, 5 p.m., that's December 11th. That is going to be Anthony Rizzo, not the first baseman of the New York Yankees, but Anthony Rizzo of Pascack Valley City Lifestyle Magazine. You guys have probably all seen this magazine all over your homes and all the businesses around. You like that one, right?
do, yeah.
So those guys are going to be joining me next week. Again, Jessica McCarthy on Monday. I'm super excited. Anthony Rizzo on Wednesday. But Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you,
I
Pete.
appreciate
Really
it.
appreciate it.
Can we please help her out, please? This is great. And all of CASA, guys, have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.